Dr. Kennedy-Armbruster practiced as an educator and administrator of fitness wellness services prior to acquiring her PhD as non-traditional student. She has received the IU Trustees Outstanding Teaching Award 3 times, is the author of 4 textbooks, and her published research articles are mostly on program delivery outcomes. I'm proud to introduce Carol of her talk Activity Trackers, the Past, the Present, and the Future.
Thank you. Wow, I feel like I'm in class, so this is going to be great. I'm used to it a lot different. So, how are you guys today? Okay, good. Well, I'm here to tell you about trackers. And I'm first going to tell you a story, because usually stories are kind of how we learn more so than the technical stuff sometimes. So that tracker up there is the #1 as of 2022 tracker. It's made by a company named Core. How many of you have a Core tracker? I know. I had never heard of them. And so what I did for this presentation is I went out and I bought one, because I was like, wow, I'm doing a talk on trackers. I really should know about the most popular one. And it's interesting. It's much cheaper than the Fitbit, and I couldn't figure it out very well in the short time that I had when I bought it and when I'm doing this presentation. But this is just an indication of what's going on with trackers. They're so popular right now that a lot of companies are jumping into the game. So if you came here, like the other thing I was worried about is I was like, oh, this is ACSM. I should have all this technical research here, right? And so I, of course, got the most current articles, and I got a batch of them here. I'm going to show you. Oh, I put them down somewhere. I got a batch of them. I read them on the plane. And I was like, I'm glad I didn't include these in the presentation, because the majority of what is published right now in activity trackers includes trackers that no longer exist. Like I was reading stuff on the Jawbone, it's gone. I was reading all this and I was like, wow, it's a good thing I didn't spend a whole lot of time on the published research that's out there right now, because it's not going to tell us anything. So what I'm going to do is kind of tell you a story of how I got involved in trackers. And I'm at a school that has an MPH program, Masters in Public Health. So what we have to do, a lot of what we do, is apply our research to the community. So I'm going to tell you kind of how we engaged in trackers early on, like almost 10 years ago, when they were just out, and kind of what we did with it and what we're doing with it now. So this is going to be a little bit of research, but some of the research is really going to tell you why we have trackers, instead of what's the legitimacy of them and which one's more technically accurate. So that's really what this talk is about. So I'm going to tell you about the past, the present, and the future. That was the title I was given by your organization. And by the way, this is only the second time I've been to New York. And I'm getting a lot more steps because of how much I'm getting lost. Like the difference between 3rd Street West and 3rd Street East. I went all the way down east, and then I thought, no, I think I saw a lake. And then, I got another 8,000 steps just getting lost. So thank you for that, New York. Oh, not right. Okay. So what have we learned is going to be the past, what's happening now, and then some of my interesting ideas or predictions for the future. So how many of you own one? Okay. How many of you used to own one and don't anymore? Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of us. And as you see, there's a lot of trackers. So I'll try to be clear. If you have questions as we go along, like if I'm talking about something, say, hey, what tracker are you talking about? Or what, please, if you need information, just kind of raise your hand or shout it out. I'm totally okay with that. We have a small group, which is great. So first of all, if you don't know about trackers, how many of you have never had one? Okay, or used one or anything. What they are is they have accelerometers inside of them. So what's an accelerometer? Like you have your phone, you turn it sideways, and it gives you the same screen, right? So that's an accelerometer in the phone. And it does directional things. So when you're in the car and you wave your hand, like I'm waving right now, I'm getting steps. So that's the problem with their accuracy, is that they're on the wrist for convenience, right? Because I can look at the time, I can look at my steps, but the accelerometer inside of them makes them less accurate, which is one reason why a lot of people don't want to do research on them, because they're not totally accurate, right? If we could just put them on the hip and make everybody wear them on the hip like the pedometer, they'd be accurate. But what happens with the pedometer? You go to the bathroom, it falls in the toilet, and then you're like, ah, forget it, right? So it's been difficult to research this because we've had to say, all right, there's an inaccuracy, and we don't like that. So I'm going to give you a little example now about where we've been and where we're going. And this is just a little bit with movement in general, nothing to do with trackers. So here we go.
Whoa, that's not good.
Need this. I'm already late.
Somebody will come. Anybody out there?
Do you have a phone?
No. Sorry. Somebody! Hello? There are two people stuck on an escalator and we need help. Now, would somebody please do something? I don't believe this.
That's a 2007 YouTube. Okay.
Well,
So,
enough. Let's do it.
and you know why it's 2007? Because they didn't have their phones with them, right? Everybody would have their phone with them right now. So it's kind of interesting where we have been mentally with this whole idea of movement. So this is one of my favorite all-time research studies done by Stephen Blair. And it was published in Medicine, Exercise, Nutrition, and Health, which doesn't exist anymore. I wrote a book on personal fitness and wellness, and so Human Kinetics very nicely took his graph and made it a lot more interesting. And in this, I think this is when we started to turn. This is a 92 article. It's when we started to turn to start thinking about movement versus exercise. And Stephen Blair was one of those people that thought about it early on. And I love this because what you have to think about is people's entire day now, not just how many steps they have, but what's going on in their entire day. So we have Busy Bob right here, which is most people. They wake up, they're at work all day, they take a nap at their desk, and then Busy Bob goes home, right? He gets no steps. And then we have Moving Mary. Mary parks her car far away. She takes the stairs. She walks to lunch. She takes the stairs, walks to the printer, walks her dog. She's probably not meeting the intensity guidelines. She's not taking her heart rate, right? But if you add up all of Mary's little bursts throughout the day, that's a lot of steps. We might say, well, Mary's not very fit because her VO2 isn't this. But I would say Mary moves. And then we have Running Roy. Running Roy, same as basically Busy Bob. Sits at his desk. This is often the person that drives to the fitness center, finds the closest parking spot, right? Because he's in a hurry, and runs 3 miles on the track, gets back in his car, and he lives like Bob. So he would say, I met the ACSM guidelines, got my heart rate up to 75%, and I have fitness. And I would say, Busy Bob, no. You have fitness, but is that really going to change your life? Maybe not, okay? So this is the dilemma we have right now, is we talk about everything with the E word, exercise. I like to talk about it as movement, okay? Exercise is movement, but then there's also movement. And that's why I'm kind of an advocate of this whole step thing. So here's some research out of 2000 and 2011. Showed that bouts less than 10 minutes, multiple times a day, impact your cardiovascular health, improve systolic blood pressure, decrease hypertension, decrease stress. Add the stairs, and you increase HDL and VO2. So we started to see this research early, but a lot of us, because we're fitness people, oh, come on, really? I don't believe that. You know, that's not right. So then there's another issue. And I love the research by Church and Kashmar. They've done some cool stuff. This was in 2013, where they were looking at household management and what has happened to that from 1960 to 2010. And you can clearly see that we spend less hours doing household tasks than we ever have. So here you have somebody in the 60s who's vacuuming, and now we have the robot lawnmower, or the robot cleaner, right? You turn it on, you can even mow your grass now with these things. They mow your entire grass while you're gone, and then you come home and you don't have to worry about it. So I want you to start thinking about all the things that have been invented to replace what we used to do physically, and realize that movement is on the decline. And all we're talking about is exercise, not really movement. So our movement over time has definitely decreased. This was another study by Church. And basically, between 60 and 2010, actually, this is a graph that was in the last study. You have seen light go up, you've seen moderate go down, and you've seen sedentary stay about the same. So we have to be aware that people don't move enough. And we cannot just talk about their exercise anymore. Like I tried on the board of trustees, I said, could we change exercise, the American College of Sports Medicine and the whole exercise thing, start calling it movement? And they looked at me like I'm crazy. I think that someday we're going to be talking about movement. So I don't know if you know who James Levine is. He did a keynote at ACSM Health Fitness Summit. He's crazy. He wore orange socks and crazy things and ran up and down. He's a physician at Mayo Clinic. I have my students read this book, because what he did is really talk about sitting. He's the sitting time guy, and disease. And his research at Mayo Clinic said a 15-minute stroll after eating reduces your risk of diabetes by half. And he's a guy who put sensors in people's underwear. Like, his stories were amazing. They went through, they flew, and the alarms went off, and then they'd have to say, I have sensors in my underwear. I'm in Dr. Levine's study. So he's done some very interesting things, and he's a big proponent of how we need to get up and do less in our chairs. So I had an aha moment. I'm a pracademic. They introduced me as. That means I really didn't want to be a scientist at all. I was so into fitness and the whole aerobics thing, and I was a cheerleader, and I was like, I don't want to, sit in a desk and do all that stuff. I want to be active. And so I was hired as a fitness director at IU in 1994, and was given $1.5 million to buy equipment, just equipment, to have, house this new thing. And the story I have is that we bought Quinton treadmills. No, Woodway treadmills, actually. Woodway is the best, they're $20,000 each. And the building had been built much earlier, because when you're on a university, there's a lot of funding that has to happen to build a major building. So what happened is, when we opened the Student Rec Center, everything was used. All our treadmills, every single piece of electronic things that you could have. And guess what happened in the first week? We had a major emergency. What do you think happened? Yes, we blew a fuse. You want to talk about a major liability issue? Have all these people on a treadmill and have your power grid go down, right? So that was my aha moment, and I started to do talks in academia. They'd ask me to come over. Well, tell us about the student rec center and all this. And I actually said in these classes, you know what, guys, these treadmills are $20,000 each. And you could literally go to our building, touch the building, and go back to your place and get as much exercise as walking on that treadmill. And so it dawned on me, man, I was feeling guilty. Like all this money that we are spending on fitness equipment. And is it necessary? Is it what the students need? And that's when I went into academia. I went over to them and I said, listen, I think I need to look at this differently. I don't feel like we're going in the right direction with this whole fitness thing. So I did do a TEDx talk, and there's a link on there. If you ever want to see it, it's 13 minutes long. It's, you know, when you do something years ago, you say you don't ever want to show any of it. So I'm not gonna, but it was fun. And this is one of my slides from that. Dr. Ostrand, now you know Ostrand rhyming, that was the protocol we used for VO2. He's my hero. I love his article called Why Exercise in 1992. If you haven't read it, you need to read it. Because this is what he said: if animals are built reasonably, they should build and maintain just enough, but not more structure than they need to meet functional requirements. In 1995, I was at the ACSM conference when the new guidelines came out about movement, and I didn't know it, but I was sitting next to Dr. Ostrand. And he was, you know, I don't know if he's around anymore, probably not, or if he is, he's much older. And he was like this. And I thought, wow, is this man angry? What's going on, you know? And you don't say anything. I was kind of young and a student. And when Russ Fate came up and talked about the 95 guidelines, Dr. Ostrand looked at me and he said, I told them that a long time ago. I wrote an article on that. What's the deal? Why are we finally doing this? And I really was like, and I looked at a name tag on it. I thought, that's Dr. Ostrand, you know, and I'm getting tested on the Ostrand rhyming submax test. So I was like, he's the guy. And so I went and read some of his stuff. And if you haven't read his stuff, read some, because he went over and did bike tests on people that are very, very active. And he found out that they were fit. And he started to think, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing? And it was just amazing to actually meet him. Oh, and two other books. Oh, I can't go backwards? Yeah, I can. There we go. Two other books I highly recommend is Spark by John Ratty, that talks about the brain and movement. He's been very active in that. And also, I don't know if you just read for fun, but sometimes I read for fun. And I heard Steve Jobs was a major movement guy. Like if you read this book, all you do is hear about him walking on Stanford's campus. That's all he did. Like he would exhaust people, and then he'd come up with this idea. And it really got me thinking about how movement also increases your brain productivity. And he didn't even know any stuff about this. He just did it. And I think it is interesting that in his book, that's all he talks about is walking. And he'd say, when I totally exhausted the person I was with, I came up with an idea. So I think we need to think differently. I said something in my TED talk that everybody sent me notes and said, I got it, Carol, don't steal my steps, don't steal my steps. I kept hearing that, and I thought, okay, that's cool. And so I put in here all the things that steal your steps. So I think we have to do two things. Exercise is one of them. I'll always believe in it. Obviously, I'm in this field. But I also think we have to make people aware of what is taking away movement in our lives, because it is making a difference. So we need to think differently. Now, neuromotor is a new guideline for ACSM, right? We used to have cardio, strength, flexibility, and now we have this thing called neuromotor, and we don't really know what it is yet. A lot of it is balance. Well, we have all these things that take away our balance, right? Lean on that instead of just walk up it. If you don't need it, don't use it, right? Because it will take away your balance. So And yeah, you can squat, you can put a lot of stuff on there, but you can also, like my husband, get everything out of the dryer. I don't know what that weighs, but I call that the dryer move now. You call it the squat. I say, no, it's the dryer move. You know, and what are we doing? We're now stacking them, right? So we don't have to bend over and do a squat to get everything out of the dryer. So basic stuff. This is another great study that I saw in 2000, or way early. It was on women over the age of 70. They were assigned a functional task exercise program, a traditional resistance program, and there was a control group. The results showed that functional task exercises were more effective than resistance exercise at improving functional tasks for those women. That if you gave them things that they did throughout the day, they were more likely to repeat it because it mattered. Like calling things a dryer move instead of a squat. 70-year-olds don't know what a squat is. They've never done one, let alone one that's been loaded up with weight, right? But if you say, hey, we're gonna get things out of the dryer, they're like, now you're talking my language. So I think how we talk to people too is important. And then this is the beginning of research on trackers. I love John Ficarra. He does great stuff up at the University of Wisconsin in La Crosse. So he attempted to try to look at different devices, the Jawbone Up, the Nike Fuel Band, and the Fitbit Ultra, comparing actual movement on a treadmill with a pedometer. And if you look at it, basically, the Jawbone's gone. The Nike Fuel Band, if you Google that on Nike, it says it goes to a purchasing socks area. So Nike, I think, sold their interest in this to somebody else. And the Fitbit Ultra is like their very first one. So this is 2013 published research, and I'll show you some more current stuff. It's really difficult to research stuff when it's going away very quickly. So we have this ecological model, and I love Dr. Salas. I think Dr. Salas has brought us into a whole other realm, thinking less about what we do in a fitness center and more about everything. Looking beyond the individual and looking at their friends. The last session I was in was a great talk about friends, looking at organizations, looking at community, looking at society. I think that COVID has made us look at this. You know, what's going to happen now to how people work? What's going to happen to things that we weren't really thinking about related to fitness? You have people that might come into a fitness center and they've walked already 20,000 steps. Should they be in that day? Activity trackers in the medical setting. This is a big deal now. Medicine is starting to kind of jump on the bandwagon. And I liked this study that was in clinical neuroscience. It was looking at the functional recovery of patients and collecting performance data outcomes. And they thought it would help them regain functional independence, help hospitals have protocol. So if you have a knee replacement surgery going on, it might be, okay, the first week we want you to walk 300 steps. Then you can walk 400 steps. So they were seeing step trackers as a way to set protocol for coming back from an injury. And I thought that was interesting. The business of trackers. By 2018, this is I'm still on the past. 60 million trackers will be in use, 1.4 billion in venture capital, all this. And at the time, Jawbone was number one. Jawbone doesn't exist anymore. Fitbit has really come on strong here towards the end. Fitbit, Apple, and I'll show you what is the current ones. But it's such a changing thing that in research, that's why I was reading all these research articles and I was like, nope, those are gone. Nope, those are gone. In research, it's difficult. By the time you're done with the study and you submit it and then you get it published, it's like, okay, it doesn't matter anymore. They don't exist. So this is another thing that's happening with trackers is insurance, incentives, and usage-based insurance. So now insurance companies are partnering with phone, medical technology companies. Companies offer financial incentives. There's a company in Indianapolis, if you got 10,000 steps a day, you got $100 a month. Okay. New practice, usage-based insurance, rewards health behavior. If you got those 10,000 steps, then we're going to charge you less because it sounds like you're adhering to what we're doing and asking you to do. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that happens with these trackers, not just in our realm, but I think in a larger vein. There's also behavioral research, another one of my favorite studies. And I found it because I Googled something about legs, and it gave me the study, Give Ideas Some Legs, the positive effect of walking on creative thinking. And actually found that when people sit indoors, they have less steps than walking indoors. But when they go outside, their sitting is less and their walking is more. So it was talking, actually, I think this person was talking about elementary school teachers saying, hey, we need to get them outside more because it seems like they sit less when they're outside more. So what I am so excited about is the 2018 guidelines that tell us that everything counts. Finally, when these guidelines came out, I wanted to say, finally, okay, it's like we've kind of known this, but now we're science, so we have to make sure and do it very accurately. Well, the 2018 Scientific Committee concluded that bouts of any length contribute to the health benefits associated with the cumulative volume of PA. That's huge. So I think there's a huge disconnect between fitness, movement, and research. How many of you have been to Orange Theory? Anybody? Yeah, I've been to Orange Theory. I've tried them all. If it's out there, I've tried it. And Orange Theory has your heart rate up on the screen, so you make sure that you're getting, you're in your slat points and getting in the orange so that you work hard enough. And I look around, there is nobody that is not very fit at those places. And I feel like these things that we're starting are to help the fit be fitter, and we're leaving out the people that are really changing the healthcare costs in our country. So I want to ask the question, what about the other 80 to 85%? Maybe they, if given a tracker, could really change their lifestyle and everything else. So currently, I call these, instead of saying the ACSM guidelines, I call it the human movement patterns. We have 3 levels. We have exercise, which is very well defined in the 11th edition of ACSM's book. We have physical activity, which is very well defined by our governmental agency. And then we have this thing called sedentary living, which is not very well defined, but there is a website, and it's an awesome website called juststand.org that will tell you everything you need. They have all the current research on sitting time. So if you haven't seen that, that's a really good one to look at. So sedentary living, we know Kajmars and Church, these guys, I love these guys. They have found that extended sitting results in metabolic alterations that cannot be compensated by one exercise session. And the inactivity physiology appears to be detrimental to one's health. Okay, we know this. Now they're using our language in another way. So in a recent book that I use in class, I started looking at the wellness wheel because we all have, how many of you have seen the wellness wheel at some point in your life? Yeah, it's in every health class, everywhere you've seen it. And it has this thing that everything is perfect, and it's all equal. Where when you're really looking at it throughout our lives, we change, okay? So let's see, you guys are in your 20s. You're in the intellectual scene, right? And then you're going to have kids, and you're not going to read a darn thing. And, if this is your life. And then you become an empty nester, and you go, all right, now I get to go and do all this stuff. Then you become an older adult. So this whole thing changes over time. And I think when we start putting people in boxes and doing this kinds of stuff, we really need to think about that because nothing is equal. So I need you guys to move with me because you've been sitting way too long. So just stand up for a minute. And we are going to do functional strength exercises. And did you know that the lack of leg strength is the #1 reason why people end up in assisted care? So I'm going to help you not be in assisted care. Can't cheat now. You got to put your hands right here. And you guys, your seats came up, so you don't have to do a full squat. You're going to hit your butt on the seat and then come back up. Do it again. All right. How many should we do? Somebody yell out. Ah! All right. I got 10. I think I heard 10 the most. 9, 8, 7. Do it as fast as you want. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and then you're fine. Okay. I do these in my class. I used to, but I do these in my videos of my class. They go, oh no, there she goes again. And I go, nope, nope, you've been sitting for an hour. Let's go. We're calling this a functional movement. You got to be able to get out of a chair. If you can't get out of a chair, you're in trouble. So let's go to the present now with trackers. They're #1. They've been #1, right, for 5 years. And look at what is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and down. The exercise word is in there a lot, okay? So I feel like this is, the people that take this trend are all of you. They're certified by ACSM or they're fitness professionals. And I feel like these trends tell us a lot about ourselves, right? They tell us that I love gyms. I love strength training with weights. I love personal training. And I love all this, right? I would love to see these trends go to the people we serve to find out if they feel the same way that we do. Because it's interesting that they were on, then they were off, and then they're on again. And now they're on again because we're using them in a lot of different ways, right? I was just at the poster session and saw people using all kinds of different trackers in different ways. So it isn't just to track exercise now, it's to track a whole lot of things. So Fred Hoffman, I love Fred. He's an applied guy. And he wrote a great article in IRSA said, wearables continue to transform the fitness industry. Club operators and trainers are leveraging gadgets, fitness trackers to great advantage. If you haven't seen this, do you guys make the PowerPoint available, I wonder? Because I put all these links in there. I'm totally okay with you sending this to whoever. So what's at IU and why? This is some information about IU. We had a president that said we have to evolve. He was a tech guy. And he said that sedentary behavior is our greatest challenge and a physically active culture at work is something we're going to work on. I really like this guy, but he's gone now. And so I'm going to tell you not more necessarily about trackers, but some ways that what we have implemented trackers into our culture at IU. So I work and teach in the Master of Public Health program. And this is where we are constantly trying to say, how do we give back to the community? So we created this program called Ready to Move. And we looked at the university and we said, there are employees, there's research, and there's students. And they are what hold our university up. So how do we engage all of them? And so this is the mission, Healthy IU. Our president hired somebody to be in charge of this. And this is what we marketed. This is my class. This is a class that I teach. I taught a class on group. So we invited anyone in the university to come to help students learn. You're all at a university. Let's help students learn. They came once a week to class. We were learning about it. We then got trackers. I convinced the people that had money, could you buy trackers and I will make sure that they know how to use them because they're going to be a part of my class. So we called it Ready to Move. And we said, you're going to work with a student coach for 8 weeks. They're going to teach you how to use it. They're going to do all this stuff. And then we also ran an online activity 101 for those people that maybe wanted one but didn't necessarily want to show up. So that was run by some of our grad students. So this was huge. I didn't realize how big it was. I was just trying to teach my class and have something practical, but it became a big deal. And so basically, this is what they did. They set up student coaches. They learned to utilize the resources, and then we use Fitbits to track. This is my class in terms of the description. I'm not going to explain it to you. We started it in 2013, I think. We're still teaching it now for our grads and our undergrads. We put our Masters of Public Health and our undergrads together to do this. And our Masters in Public Health students help the undergrads. So we're using the whole university. Healthy IU has a manager. They do all this. I don't do any of this. This is the programming part. The School of Public Health, all we do is bring them in to do what I do is teach. And then the School of Health, basically we communicate with them about what we are doing. So this is some of our marketing stuff. It got so popular, I actually taught it at IUPUI in Indianapolis. We have a group there. So they made their own ideas. And then this was ours in Bloomington. This was our graduate students. So it's very interesting. What happened is when we got feedback after the first couple of years, they said, that is not us. That is you. So we stopped marketing that way at IUPUI. And then this one, they said, lose the shirts, because we want to walk on campus with these students, but we don't want anyone to know we are. We don't want them to know that we're in some program that was created. We just want to walk with students. And by the way, we love learning from students. And we realized it wasn't necessarily the tracker, it was the combination of the student engagement with the tracker that made the difference. And in fact, one person on the evaluation said, you know, I've never met a student, and they're actually pretty nice. And I was like, you know what she did? She collected students' money. So all she heard was when people came in and said, I'm sorry, I can't, you know, they had issues. So the benefits for the students, we created a bunch of translational research, and I'm going to tell you some of the outcomes on that in a minute. We did practical application, real world stuff. We targeted sedentary people. We did health coaching. We did resource evaluation and networking. And then we had created accountability partners. Both people had the intent to serve. The people wanted to serve the students, and we wanted the students to learn. So a lot of the employees said, oh my gosh, the student's going to get a grade. I better come, because if I don't, that might hurt their grade. And then the client had a goal. And this was a great quote. My success is your success, and that is motivating to me. So the benefits to the employees, they got to utilize our own expertise. We bridged the gap between the silos. All of a sudden, the president started talking about the School of Public Health, and that we were doing this Healthy IU program. And I was like, wow, our president even knows we're doing this. It expanded our resources, because we still to this day have them paying for trackers. And not the basic trackers, they're giving us pretty good ones. And we're fulfilling the mission. And I started it by looking at the president's mission and saying, well, we're fulfilling your mission, so can you help fund us with this? Whoop. I am stuck. Am I stuck? Yeah. Had hit it. Okay, so a couple of class goals. Basically, I skipped the slide? No, now I'm going forward. All right. That one. Oh, yeah, that's an important one. Thank you. I missed it. So this is we're still doing this, but this is our data that we published. And basically what we found with 322 student coaches, 400 clients, 274 staff appointment, 131 academic people. This is the word cloud of all those people put together. And, you know, I can give you data on this, but I thought this was better. Look at what they thought we did. We brought them activity, movement, day, and small. Those words taught us a lot about what people need. You know, that if you're doing a tracker thing, it's pretty basic. It's small. There we go. And then how did I grade them? We actually set goals in the class on what we thought we could do, numerically. Like, this was a question we asked: rate the importance of your physical activity. And currently the whole cohort was at 7.4, and they said, we think we can get them to an 8.25. And they got them to a 9.13. So we used numbers to kind of motivate the students to stay on task. Their average work week, 30 minutes of activity. We moved from 30% to 52%. And then the best challenge to wellness, currently physical, was at 52%, moved to, we had a 9% increase basically. So this was fun. I started to like my job a lot more, because I felt like my pracademic was becoming academic, that I was taking basically what I had been doing in the field, but putting it to numbers and helping people by, having these kinds of goals. And this was in our article. Basically, we really moved their physical activity days pre and post when we put all the data together. It didn't matter by campus. So we broke it down. We used the BRFSS, a lot of questions from them about sitting. And what we did learn, and we passed this on, we made no difference in sitting, 0, with trackers and everything that we had done. So we presented this to the administration saying, hey, guess what? You can do your best, but we got to change the environment. We didn't help them at all, giving them trackers and doing everything. And then how often do you get the social and emotional part? This was huge, that these employees talking to students, they really felt like it enhanced their social wellness on campus. And I would have never thought that. It wasn't the reason we did this at all. And it turned out to be at both campuses. And our campuses, Bloomington campus is rural, and the Indianapolis campus is not. They were 2 totally different cohorts, but we saw almost the exact same thing. So this is what's kind of cool is about this kind of stuff you can learn. My confidence. We were always about confidence. What we learned early on when we started this is we were getting people that were already confident. And once we changed our marketing and started to, get people that weren't confident, that's when we saw our most significant changes. So as we looked at it all in one, we broke it back down and said, we've got to figure out how do we let people in that really are not active. And these are some of the quotes from the people when we said, hey, what'd you get out of this? I won't read them. I'll let you read them. Oh, now I'm stuck again. If I give it a minute. I'm not a very patient person. Are you done reading? I'm trying. Do you have the magic on this? You don't? Okay. I gotta go quicker. There we go. Just hit it in the middle. Something. So we asked them about their tracker. My tracker helped me sustain a healthy lifestyle. Once my time had ended, we actually took the whole cohort and went back and looked at them. What was it? Let's see. Spring, we looked at them after 8 weeks and then at 8 months. I should have flip-flopped these. But you can see that after 8 weeks, they were still using it. And then after 8 months, 67% were still using it. So we used this as data to say to them, hey, still give us these because they're still working. So this was the strengths of the program. And this is what I wanted to present is not so much about the research on trackers, but what can we do with them to make a difference in our environment. And I'm a university, but I don't care where you are. I think this kind of thing will happen if you can engage everybody that is interested in it. Trying to go before it doesn't make me. I got too many slides. That's what is mad. Oh, there we do. And we did have productivity. We published articles. We did presentations. We got internal grants. So this kind of stuff can do more, I think, than just basically you know, doing the basic stuff that you do. Use your place, whether it's a business or whatever, for trackers. So what's the future? Did you know that Fitbit was just bought by Google? That's huge, okay? Because Google has a lot more money than Fitbit does. So I think we're going to see some changes in that. So wearables are no longer the niche devices for early adopters of fitness fanatics. I think you're going to see trackers everywhere now. They're going to be on so many different things. It's not going to be any more about, is it on your wrist and is it a Fitbit tracker? It's going to be, we're going to be tracked by a whole lot of things. So the article on that is there. I wish we will make sure that this is made available to you. I'm all about sharing. I'm retiring in 3 weeks. I don't care if you use this whole entire presentation. So what are the best trackers according to the New York Times? Fitbit's still number one. There's a new Fitbit out though. I have the old one, so I actually had to buy that one too and figure it out. The new one actually measures EKG and O2. I was like, what? How do you do that? I don't even know yet because I just learned it. And then the next one was the Garmin Vivo Active. How many of you have a Garmin? Yeah, if you're Garmin, you're total Garmin. My husband is Garmin and he thinks Fitbit's crap because Garmin, he's a biker. So somehow for biking, Garmin's work better. And then there's the Apple Watch is 3. It's interesting because Apple has a lot of products, don't they? I mean, we all use their phone. We all use so many. I am thinking that now why do you think Google bought Fitbit? Yeah, because they're like, we're going to bury you, Apple. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this whole thing. Stephen Theret, and God bless his soul because he's no longer with us. He is by far one of my favorite fitness management people. And he wrote a book on fitness management. I taught a class, and this is what I'm going to call these people that don't do anything. Instead of calling them a lot of names that we call them, right? I call them the uninitiated believers, okay? They just don't know yet that they're going to believe in what we do. And that's 63% of the population right now. They value fitness, but they still value sitting more. They claim to be overweight. They're more likely to be female and younger, and a lot of them are college educated. Okay, so he had in his book, he wrote a book on fitness management. It's awesome, about non-believers, people that are indifferent, and he's like, you're never going to get these people. Don't even try. But the uninitiated believers, they have hope. The hardcores are you, me, right? We live it. We studied it. We totally believe in it, a lot of us. So let's look at who these people are. They believe that fitness has value. 25% are sedentary and 26% are very active. So we know people go in and out of this. 70% claim to be overweight. Where are they getting that? Maybe they're not. Maybe it's society and how we portray things. They're more likely to be a woman. That's why I say this. And then they're college educated. So we have some work that we have to start thinking about with these uninitiated believers. And let's call them something nice. That's what I like, the uninitiated believer instead of that one that never came back. And ACE has a model on engaging the uninitiated believers. They don't know they do, but they do. I loved this because they said, start your training with function, then move into health, and then do fitness, and then do performance. Many of us come from performance. So we're backwards. We're starting here, saying, come on, let's go. And they're like, what, are you crazy, man? I'm over here. You know, especially with you're dealing with older adults. So I think what we really have to do is start thinking about who we are working with a lot more and who we are studying. Like a lot of the studies that I was looking at trackers, I looked at who were the people. And if they were graduate students, like you guys in exercise phys, I said, I'm not reading it because they're not my people. They're not who I think we need to change. You're already in exercise fitness because you love it. So you have to think about how do you pass it on. So who is using them? This is a current research one. 21% of people say they use smart or fitness trackers. Some of us in fitness say, oh, come on, we don't need that stuff because you don't need it. But people need it that maybe are in the uninitiated. And you can see kind of a little bit about who's using them. Here we go again. Middle, side. It's like, wait, there's too much on there. This way, where is the thing? I knew that. No? Yeah, there you go. That's a good idea. I'll try. Which one? I'm afraid if I press anything, it's going to go. Enter. Okay. So this is cool. After, it's not cool actually, but it's reality. After COVID, life expectancy now for the first time in the United States is on the decline. Okay. And some of that is just data, but the CDC is telling us that we better be alerted to this. Here we go again. Which one did you hit? Why don't you just stay and hit? Okay. Trackers. What's going to happen in the future? It looks like that there is going to be $1 billion industry. I mean, it's going to be, and now that we know that Fitbit, the Google bought Fitbit, we're going to see so much in tracking. It's not even funny. And then how do we know if they're accurate, right? Should we use them? There's going to be so many questions that we're going to have on trackers in general. So this is the shipment of wearable devices, and we don't know if they're out there in the ships or they're actually here, but this is generally what's happening. We're seeing a lot of fitness trackers and smartwatches definitely being out there. This is my dad. Yeah, God bless his soul, because he had atrial fib and he ended up dying of it, but I told him he would always be in every talk of mine. He's my hero. And in fact, he was on the front page of the Villages, if you know where that is in Florida, because he owned a tracker. So they took this picture of him. That's why it's so nice. And he had atrial fib. His tracker helped him so much because it could tell him when he was an AFib. And it made a huge difference in how long he lived, because he was able to go, oh. And, you know, since I was in this, he was the one that everyone was like, I don't know what that guy has, but he's got this thing that you use, you know. And so I think introducing people really can make a difference. Yes, he has an Ohio State hat on. He's a huge Buckeye fan. This is the most current in Consumer Reports in the review. This is the core. This is supposedly the best one there is. And like I said, it's new. I don't know that much about it, and there's no research on it. So the initial Apple Watch, you can see how crazy it was. This is the new Apple Watch for activity, and it's interesting because they want to make things simple, readable, doable. So they have in here the human movement paradigm that I showed you earlier with movement. I don't know which is which. I think this is exercise, and then this is movement, and this is sedentary. So their goal is that, you know, the whole, you know, that you try and get your circles every day to go all the way around. But this is hard for us to research, isn't it? The circle's 3/4, the circle's 1/3, you know. So this is why I think Fitbit is really about numbers. So if you're looking and saying, well, I want to maybe do something like this with this, I wouldn't recommend that Apple be the one that you use. So quick, because I think we're almost done. A little bit of big data. Keep going. Oh, okay. So John DeCasey just put out an article in JAMA on trackers. Made me really mad because the general press picked it up. This is where I got it. And they talked about, he found that fitness trackers came up short. The research suggested the device worn by the people. The device was actually a FitCore armband. Well, who likes to wear an armband? Is less effective at encouraging people to lose weight than simple following an exercise plan. And then the person that picked up this research article put that picture in it, like it was a tracker on your wrist. So don't believe everything that you see on this when they cite a research article and they don't really look at the specifics of it, because this made me mad. I was like, oh, come on. So here's the impact of wearables in health. And this is a really good article. Some studies have indicated that big data extracted from wearables may potentially transform the understanding of population health dynamics and the ability to forecast health trends. And I think we're going to see more of that. I think there's one more. Kids and trackers. They did wrist worn on these guys. I was really excited. And basically, they determined that promoting school age daily steps and various levels, especially for females, those that are physically active, these programs should include goal setting. So they said just giving them doesn't matter. You got to sit down and really talk to them about it. And that's why I go back to that Ready to Move we did. We actually had people goal setting with them. That matters. Okay, and then one on diabetes. 725 patients completed. The patients had a mean age of 60, a low educational level. Results indicated that observability was a primary influencing factor of patients' adoption intention. So they were looking at, now these are able to track different things related to diabetes too. So this is my son-in-law. He's a tech guy. So he's like, I know you want me to move. And I was like, okay, Max, here's the deal. You like to play the guitar. What if you put a strap on it and I put a tracker on you? So I did my own experiment on my son-in-law, and he was like, man, that was great, Carol. I got 500 to 2,000 more steps just walking around playing my guitar instead of sitting and playing. And I was like, great. So you can change your family too. If they won't change, then you got to find what is their message. So there's a blurring line between medical and wellness. And this is the new thing that's happening, is they're doing blood oxygen levels on this. Is the Apple Series 6 that is out there. I think there's a 7 too. And then this is very interesting. These are global trends. The United States, basically 36 billion in 2020. It's projected to reach $114 billion in this industry. So if you don't think it's going to grow, it's going to grow. So us saying, well, nobody needs them, come on, is really not, we need to be thinking about them. So what's new? There's a new one now that's talking about blood sugar monitoring for diabetes, on how you do this, and that you can track that. Apple's rumored to be working on it. I don't know if it's happening or what's going to happen, but it's rumored. And then, I don't know if any of you have an Oura ring, anybody? These are the new hot thing. My son just came back from San Francisco, or I wouldn't even know this either. He's like, Mom, I got this Oura ring. It's like, what does it do? And so it really almost looks like the printout on a Fit, you know, anything else. And if you don't want to wear a watch, but you want to wear a ring, then maybe you don't have to have a watch. So I think we're going to see these everywhere. Okay, so college campuses. I did something with this course, this personal fitness and wellness course, and basically we opened it up to non-majors on our college campus, and we now have, we created a minor, next slide. We created a minor in well-being during the pandemic, and we started to steal all these people's credit hours across campus because we had business, informatics, everybody taking this class, this minor, because they needed it. And we put it in the hopper before the pandemic. And it really, I think I personally am like the 5th largest credit generator in the School of Public Health now, just because of this class. And I'm like, that's why I can retire. I'm like, okay, fine, I'm done. I'm going to leave now. Like, no, they don't pay you more. They don't care. But all of a sudden, our dean has looked at it differently. He's like, wow, maybe we should community engage. Maybe instead of going for the NIH dollar that we're all fighting for the same pool, we could actually get some money internally by showing some of these outcomes by helping our own community. So I hope I've given you some ideas I know I'm a couple minutes over, so I want you to go to your next thing. And I'm certainly willing to hang around and chat with any of you afterwards. So thanks.